I think whenever I look at movies and video games, I think like I always thought to myself that invisible weapons are probably one of the most dangerous ones. We're gonna now look at someone building an invisible katana. I'm not really sure how he's gonna do that, but yeah, this is gonna be interesting.
Seen an invisible sword?
What?
Well, I think I have. A few days ago, I saw this picture right here. That is an invisible sword, and now I want one, just like that. A sword that's not only invisible, but also indestructible and sharp. A sword that's basically like a normal one, but that you can't see. I'm gonna build one.
Interesting.
Not sure how yet, I'm gonna have to figure it out. And then I'm gonna test its sharpness and durability against increasingly harder targets. The first step was choosing the right material.
When you make an invisible sword, how do you know where's the hilt and not? Like, how do you know how to pick it up? Like, what do you do?
And the first one that popped into my head, well, it was glass. Glass is transparent,
but it will break.
Thinner than that, and you can make it pretty sharp by using a diamond stone like I did here. But even though there are some kinds of glass that can be more resistant than usual, and even indestructible, according to
how do you know when it's ready?
The problem with glass is that glass is glass.
Boom.
And glass breaks. At least way too easily to
that
make
looks fun.
Out of it. But there is another material that not only is transparent, but it's 10 times more impact resistant than steel by weight. I'm talking about polycarbonate.
Ooh.
It is generally used for riot shields, armored vehicles, safety glasses, and other indestructible items.
Yeah,
because
the
of all
Nokia.
That, it sounds like the perfect material for the job. But I kinda still wanna see for myself how hard it actually is. To find that out, I'm cutting out a small sample from the panel I'm planning to use for the katana. And the idea is to hit the polycarbonate as hard as I can with this unnecessarily big sledgehammer.
3, 2, 1.
Wait, did it break?
And well,
or did it just bounce
I'm not
away?
exactly sure what just happened. I only know that even though both sawhorses broke because of the impact,
I think
the
you just bounced
polycarbonate
it.
panel is completely fine.
Wow.
This thing has one scratch, but you can't even feel it. It's not even bended or anything. It's like
no, I'm making. I think I know who you
and
mean.
Since polycarbonate is clearly resilient,
yeah,
meaning it can bend, like a lot, without breaking, it's definitely my best option. So to make the katana, I got a big panel of polycarbonate, 2 meters by 0.5 and 12 millimeters or 0.47
I wonder how
inches
expensive
thick,
that is.
which is also the maximum thickness I could find for this material. And this
Wait,
is
he's
gonna
doing
be
this in
invisible
Europe?
and indestructible body of the sword. Now, to cut the right shape out of the panel, I'm gonna use tape. What I mean is that tape should make it easier to draw the consistent curve of the katana on the panel. And then I can use that as a reference for the actual cut. And after outlining the tip, the edge, and completing the handle, I can start to see the final shape of the sword. There is just one thing to point out. I involuntarily made this thing big. Like, way too big. It's basically
That's
twice
a
as large as a normal
long boy.
katana. And I'm not sure
That's
if I
a
should be
long
excited because
boy.
the katana is
Ooh.
massive and it's gonna be powerful, or worried because the katana is massive and I might not be able to even lift it. But after making a few scientific tests, I realized that because polycarbonate is so much lighter than steel, it shouldn't be a problem to swing the sword, even if it's that big. And so, I'm not worried anymore. I'm just really excited instead. Then I used a jigsaw to cut out a smaller perimeter around the sword, so that it's gonna be easier to work with it in the next step. And after doing that, it became even more noticeable how big this thing is gonna be. Now the next step is to crop the actual shape of the sword out of the panel. And to do that, I'm gonna use a bandsaw. Then after cutting the shape, I can remove the protective film, and I'm gonna be able to see if the sword actually looks invisible. The problem is that bandsaws don't look too friendly, and most importantly, I don't exactly know how to use one. So I got pretty nervous.
That's a scary little thing to deal with.
I only cut one part. I forgot to
True.
I cut it really
True.
well. You see?
The good thing is that I need to follow the interior line, this part inside here. So my terrible cut wasn't actually a big deal, for now. Then I cut the extra material out of the other side of the katana, and like that, I was getting closer. Now comes the hardest part. I need to follow these lines here and be precise. Now this is definitely scarier. And I don't mind my fingers being close to a deadly saw, but making a mistake here means removing material out of the final katana, and potentially having to start from zero. Luckily though, I was getting the hang of it. And after removing the extra material from the handle, I'm fixing the final details on the belt grinder. as you can clearly see here. Anyways, like that, the first step to make the sword is complete. I'm also happy to see the weight of the katana is not a problem at all. It's not too light, not too heavy, and the katana is not bending on itself, which means I'm definitely on the right track. And now, a few seconds of silence while I remove the plastic wrap.
Ooh. Ooh, that's satisfying. Oh.
Now, the sword looks
Heaven.
pretty invisible already, but inside the shop the effect is actually weaker because of the lights. Like in real life, like this, it's
You can see it very clearly though.
What if I do this?
Yeah. It reflects.
And that was already more like it. Or less like it. But outside, it gets even better. Bear in mind, you can still see the edges because there is no blade and the spine is not polished. So it might be that the katana also looks darker because the edges block the light. But when the edges are perfectly perpendicular to the camera, this thing looks fake. The effect is even stronger when there is light behind it. And I'm very excited to see what this katana is gonna look like when it's done. I'm gonna get this thing sharp.
That is really cool.
And then I'm gonna test it against a lot of stuff.
What is that? Is that wax?
The first step to get the sword sharp is to create a bevel on the blade. So after marking the center of the blade using a caliper, I'm retracing the line with a pencil. This line is gonna be my reference for the edge while grinding. Also, to make sure I'm gonna grind the blade symmetrically on both sides, basically like this, I made this tool. This mechanism allows me to set a certain angle, so that when I grind the sword with a belt grinder, the angle should stay consistent, as well as the bevel on both sides. And this is all theory, by the way.
Ballistic
I've never
dummy
grinded
gel head. Ooh,
almost anything
okay.
in my life, and this could honestly mess up the entire sword. But of course, there is only one way to find out. And well, even though I felt like I was doing everything wrong at the beginning, after basically 1 hour of grinding, the first side of the bevel was completed. And besides making an absolute mess everywhere,
AKA
including on
Twitter
my
user
face,
says.
I think it came out bad. Much better than expected.
Oh
And so
god.
after repeating the process on the other side of the blade, the raw shape of the sword is done. The katana is not sharp yet, but it has an edge now. And so the next step is gonna be making it invisible. To do that, I'm gonna smooth out the angle between the spine and the bevel, mainly to prevent reflections like the ones you see here. And while doing so, I'm gonna also remove the scratches I got from the belt grinder and hopefully turn the katana even more transparent than how it was before. So I got a sander with 8 different pads, from a coarse grit to basically a polishing one. And by sanding the katana with each one of the pads, in theory, I'm gonna be able to make it transparent. And well, after a little more than 2 hours, I was
2
basically done
hours?
with the first pad. Anyways, I made sure to
Oh
remove
my
every single
God.
scratch from the belt grinder.
So 4
and even
hours
after
in
just
total.
a coarser pad, the katana already looks
Doing good
pretty cool.
bets.
Now I'm gonna repeat the process 7 times. And so I did, each time with a finer grit, and each time making sure to remove all the scratches that were there before. And after about 1 hour and something, I was using the final pad. After that, I'm sanding everything with a 2500 grit sandpaper by hand, and with this, I'm finally starting to see the first good results. Now it's looking good. When it's wet, it looks great.
You really had fun with that one.
Right now, there are still a lot of micro scratches on
You
the
really
surface
had
of the
fun
blade.
with that one, huh?
That's why the katana doesn't really look transparent yet. So now I'm gonna try to remove them using this headlight polisher. And after applying it on the sword with a sponged pad, the katana was polished and transparent. There is just one problem that I'm realizing literally right now. I forgot about physics. Yeah. Wanna know what happens when a block of transparent material has variable thickness like in my case? Distortion. That's what happens. And so even though the katana looks good and it's transparent, when you look through it, it's gonna always distort the objects behind it. Basically like you see here. And even though I actually like this katana and I spent 3 days working on it, I already wrote the title of this video and I don't wanna clickbait you. So the sword has to be more invisible than that. Now, the problem
How is he
that
gonna do
I
that?
will always need a bevel to make the sword sharp, and a bevel creates distortion. But what if? What if I try to keep the thickness consistent as long as I can, and then make a really short bevel? By doing that, in theory, the entire sword would be invisible, and only a small part of it would create distortions. So, to confirm the theory, I tried making a small sample with this new concept, and it turned out honestly great. Let's make another sword. So, I
Wait,
drew
you're
a new
doing it
sword, cut
again?
it out of the panel with a bandsaw, flattened the
Oh,
edges,
Lord.
like that, had the new raw shape of the katana.
Minus
Then
3
I made a new,
days.
shorter bevel on the belt grinder. And even though this took a while, like a long while, the new edge came out so much better than the old one. So after polishing it, and polishing the spine of the blade, and turning my hand into a tomato,
Oh no.
after 1 day of work, the final blade is ready. You can obviously still see the bevel, and the bevel still distorts what's behind it. But besides that,
That looks
now the
sick.
entire blade is completely transparent. For comparison, this is how version 1 of the katana looked, and this is how it looks now.
Oh, that's way
I
better.
really like this, and the more I look at this thing, the more I can't wait to test it. The katana is also pretty sharp now,
It
and I
looks
know that
cool.
because I randomly hit the dummy's head with the blade.
Did it
and this
already cut
happened.
it? Oh my
So
god.
yeah,
It
cuts.
did.
At this point, to complete the katana, I gotta make the handle and the guard.
That's
katana
a
guards
pimp.
are pieces of
Ooh.
art. They're often handmade and they just
Pimp
look
name Slickback.
But I'm a minimalist, so mine is just transparent. I actually tried to do something fancier, but I ended up right away with a chubby Pac-Man. And then it took me 1 day to make this hole, but at least it fits nicely on the katana. And at this point, I only got the handle left. So my initial plan was to use the acrylic block and then carve a handle out of it. But besides that taking a lot of time, I fear it would probably not come out as transparent as I wanted. Because following the plan, I need to make a hole into the block and then fit the handle into it. And the problem with holes is that they are really hard to polish. Moreover, I only need to add just a few extra centimeters on the thickness of the handle. So why can't I just glue extra polycarbonate to it and then shape everything as a handle? Well, I tried on a smaller sample first, using super glue, and it honestly worked perfectly. It's actually really strong.
That's some good
I hit
ass
it
super
here,
glue.
and it didn't move. So I cut 2 pieces of polycarbonate with the same dimensions of the handle. And after placing an entire super glue bottle on each side of the handle, I glued the 2 pieces to it. Now I need to smooth the edges and also reduce the thickness of the block in order to get the shape of the final handle. And I'm saying this just because there is no way for you to tell, but I got a big smile under the mask there. Mainly because after grinding for 30 minutes, I was really happy about how the handle was turning out.
I swear it's not dandruff.
Besides that, the tape I put on the guard to protect it didn't protect the guard at all, but it created a sort of pattern that somehow reminds
Wait, that
me
looks
of
cool though.
anime
Yeah.
stuff. So I think I'm gonna keep it this way. And since the handle already feels pretty good in my hands, I simply finished it by polishing it, as I previously did with the body of the sword. And even though it was completely random, the glue created a unique effect on the handle.
Oh.
Kinda looks like ice. Anyways, with this, the katana is finally completed.
Wait, that weapon actually
And
looks so
honestly,
cool
I
though.
don't think it looks cool. I think it just looks like I'm about to start my own anime revenge arc when I'm holding this thing.
I don't think it's like
I
purely
absolutely love
invisible.
it.
You can
Of
clearly
course,
see
you
it
can
very
still see
good,
the
but it
edge,
looks so
but everything else
clean.
is basically transparent, especially when there is ground or objects behind it. And now, I wanna test it though. I wanna find out if this actually works like a sword. I wanna see how well it can cut and how powerful it is. To find that out, I got a bunch of targets.
In
from
the dark,
soft
you can't
to
see it.
hard.
Yeah.
Pineapple.
If you have your
watermelon
eyes
and pumpkin,
closed, you can't see
a
the
wooden
sword,
plank,
guys.
a ballistic dummy, and then a brick. The plan is to
A
try to
brick.
cut all these.
Now that's the
and see what
power.
happens
That's the
to
best
sword.
weapon.
Pineapple is first. Hardness, 1 out of 10. A normal sword would easily cut this, but I'm not even sure if my katana can actually cut. Let's find out. And well, it didn't take me much to realize. 3, 2,
It's sharp.
1.
Boom.
That it
Oh,
really does
did it go
cut.
through the actual pineapple? Come on. What's the
Hi.
top?
Well, it cuts though.
It does cut.
I'm really happy about that. What I didn't know is that my happiness wasn't gonna last long though, because on the next attempt, the second worst thing that could possibly happen
The hilt falls
happened.
off? I fucking knew it. I fucking knew it. I knew it. Oh, that sucks, dude. Look at it. Oh, no.
Happened.
Bye. Pineapple wins against Invisible Sword.
No, I wasn't expecting this at all. Like, at all.
The sword snapped right after the handle. And then I stood literally 5 minutes like this.
Lost
trying to
against
figure out
Pineapple.
what? Why? How was this possible? Polycarbonate is basically unbreakable. Then why did this happen?
Pineapple too
The
strong.
blade itself is absolutely fine though. It doesn't even have a scratch.
And then it clicked. The reason why polycarbonate is so resistant is because it can bend a lot and absorb the impacts. And my theory is that by gluing extra material on the handle, I just made it way more rigid than the blade, effectively removing its ability to bend.
So who says I need a handle?
If my theory is right, the sword without the handle would be basically impossible to break.
I'm gonna use it this way, and if it works, and if it's strong, then I'm gonna remove the sharpness here. But if it works, I mean, it's perfect.
So, watermelon is next. Hardness, 3 out of
Watermelon
10.
is
I'm
next.
temporarily
Let's
using
go.
a cloth as a handle to
Yeah,
not
don't cut out your
myself.
fingers.
And
That's
even
not a
though
good
I'm
idea.
a little worried, there's only one way to find out what this sword can actually do.
One.
Oh.
And luckily, it went through the watermelon without problems. It doesn't cut clean, probably because of the thickness of the blade, and the fact that the blade
As a
bends
thick
a lot.
boy.
But so far, it cuts.
But wait, I'm gonna eat this one.
Next, pumpkin. Hardness 5 out of 10.
And this is not a normal pumpkin, besides the shape. But even my supersonic chain whip struggled to slice one piece.
Yo, that's
It's like,
cool.
it's way hard.
Wait,
but even
what
my
the fuck
supersonic
is
chain
that?
whip struggled to slice one piece. It's like, but even my supersonic chain whip struggled to slice one piece. It's like, it's way harder
Baltimore,
than it looks.
holy.
And yet, the katana actually
Look at
sliced this
Milk.
one. And also pretty easily. The cut is also fairly clean this time. And once again, the blade is completely fine. Now, I'm getting to the hard targets though. The next one is a wooden plank. And it's pretty thick too. So, I think there are 3 possible ways this can go down. The katana could snap and break in half. It could bend pretty badly and stay bended. Or, but it's unlikely, it will break the wood. To find out, I set up the wooden plank and I fixed the bottom and the top so that it doesn't move when I hit it. The problem is that I still haven't figured out how strong this blade actually is. And at this point, I really have no idea what's gonna happen.
Alright, let's just do it.
Oh.
3, 2, 1.
What?
And well, I wasn't expecting that.
Let's go.
It doesn't even have nothing.
Fuck.
I completely destroyed that and dented that one.
And the edge of the blade is absolutely perfect. So I think I definitely underestimated this thing.
Let me try again. I'm gonna try to break that piece.
I thought it was maybe just a fluke, so I hit the plank again. And the same thing happened.
This is the mark he left.
The wood is broken, and the blade is not even dented. At this point, I only got the 2 hardest targets left. So I quickly went back to the shop and I smoothed the edges of the handle. And now I got something like this. And I wasn't expecting it, but this handle works just as well as the old one. And so I can move on with the next test. This is a ballistic dummy. It has a layer of ballistic gelatin, which should simulate muscle tissue, and it also simulates bones.
I'm gonna hit it twice. Once here on the neck, where there is a lot of gelatin, and then once on the skull. I think it's gonna break. Hit one, neck.
I feel like it will just, the force will be the strongest part, not the cut. Yeah.
I'm checking the
Not
blade
strong
right away
enough.
to see if it's
It's not
chipped
sharp
or
enough.
cracked, but it's perfect.
All right.
Also, the dummy looks fine though. It didn't seem like the blade went through at first.
That's what it kind of looked like with the wood, is that it was more pushing the wood forward to break. Like it's heavy enough to push it, but it's not that's sharp enough to cut it.
Oh yeah, I cut it. Oh no way.
And then I saw it.
I don't know if you can see, but I cut it right here.
And it turns out the katana not only sliced the gelatin and went deep,
Oh my god.
Did you go
but it
deep?
actually shattered the bones below it. That is a piece of bone.
It's insane because
Interesting.
after the handle I thought it was gonna be an absolute fail.
And instead, the edge of the katana was as sharp as when I started testing it.
This thing is insane. I love it.
Anyways, now I'm gonna go for the head.
3, 2, 1.
Of course, look at that thing. That's a big boy.
Now, a
It
red
will do
thing is
damage
coming
for
out of
sure.
the head of the ballistic dummy, and I wasn't expecting it. So I'm switching to zombie mode for the next shots to make YouTube happy. And here, you can kind of see the damage. The skull got cracked from here to here, and there is a deep cut where the katana hit. And the katana itself,
Damn.
even after hitting the bone, doesn't even have a scratch on it. This thing is crazy. The last target though is a brick. Hardness 10 out of 10. This is clearly a dumb test. I shouldn't do this. But so far, the katana destroyed everything without getting damaged. So where is the limit? I wanna find that. I already know the edge is probably gonna get damaged, but I can always fix that by resharpening it. But I wanna see if it's gonna crack or break. And I hope not. Could have chosen a smaller brick, to be fair. Well, I got the thickest one I could find instead. Anyways, after a bit of
Who needs a
mental
katana
preparation,
when you have a brick?
I loaded my swing and I hit the brick as hard as I could. Honestly, this is a win. Little chips
Is it?
and damage on the brick. Now, I want to also try to hit a smaller brick and see what happens to the katana and the brick. And this time,
Bricked up.
the
Oh,
katana
I'm telling you,
actually
I
broke
think
the
it's more the
brick.
force. It's just
And
that
I was
it's
definitely
like
happy about
heavy.
it. But the best part for me is not even the broken brick.
Hmm.
It's the fact that after all that, this is the only damage on the blade.
That's
then I went back to
crazy.
the
That's so
workshop,
good.
And after fixing it and polishing it, the blade itself has a few scratches, but the edge is basically brand new. Next, I'm gonna build an insanely powerful slingshot. Subscribe to see when it will come out. And also, let me know in the comments what you wanna see me build after that one. If you like
That
my
was
videos,
a cool
you can
ass
also get
video.
behind the scenes and early access to the videos on Patreon, as
That
well as
was
your name at the
such
end
a
of
cool
the
video.
like you see here. Check it out.
Very fun. I've never watched this channel before. That was so fun. Holy, that is so cool, man. Jesus. Only one brick were harmed making that video. Poor little brick. Oh no. That was amazing. That's so fun. I love this. I love kind of things like this. That's so funny. Chain whip would be pimp as hell. We should watch the chain whip one day. We'll put that on our watch later list.